Peace, family. Welcome. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Tuesday, I believe, May the 2nd. May the 27th, 2025, and the time is 2:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I apologize for being late. I'm having problems with my computer, so I had to go live from my phone. So welcome. The computer says I don't have access to my microphone, and I don't understand why. The microphone says that it's connected to the computer, but StreamYard is having a hard time accessing the microphone. So I can't explain it at all. I've tried everything and it's just not working, but we're still going to go forward. I see everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. I see Black Coral. Welcome. Neo is in the chat. Hello, welcome. We have a new member. Chanithia Walker, thank you so much for joining the Soul Tribe membership. We appreciate you. I see Black Coral again, and who else? Delbert Brown, thank you, and thank you for the gift that you sent me, Delbert. I'm really enjoying the book that you sent me. Sister Karen is in the house. Lay is in the house. Herbert, Free Spirit. Hello, happy Tuesday, family. Molly girl. I cannot explain why I'm having problems with my computer, but I am. It says it can't access my audio on my microphone. And I was just thinking earlier today that I'm this close to saying I'm done with this because of all the issues. You know, the channels has been shut down, censored across. I've even been censored from Reddit. Whoever heard of that? LinkedIn. What else? Of course, 7 tech channels, YouTube channels taken down. Even on Rumble, we've had issues, but we're going to keep going on until it's time to stop. So today I just wanted to report that de-dollarization has accelerated. I've told you all about the BRICS bloc. Those are the nations: Brazil, Russia. I'm trying to see if I get this camera right. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Thus, that's a bloc of nations that have stopped trading with the dollar. And they've also tapped on the shoulders of other nations to join. The first nation that joined in this whole coalition to stop trading with the dollar, other than the BRICS bloc, was Saudi Arabia. And that was very, very important because Saudi Arabia had an agreement with the United States Incorporated for us to protect their kingdom in exchange for their oil. And then we would force all nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia. And they would have to use the USD to trade getting the oil from Saudi Arabia. Well, the United States Incorporated is now defunct, it's bankrupt, and all of those agencies or groups of agencies that consider themselves federal have to be dismantled because the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron doctrine last summer. And the Chevron doctrine gave the government and all those governmental agencies extreme or unlimited powers to create any statutes, codes, legalities, or policies that they desired to create. And they could force us to abide by them. And if we didn't abide by those statutes, codes, or policies of these fake faux government agencies, they would put fines on us or they would put us in jail. That was the Chevron doctrine. It gave them the room and the legality or the ability to do that. So the Supreme Court of the United States overturned all of that. The Chevron doctrine, also known as the Chevron deference, because what would happen is if you didn't abide by the policies of the fake government or any of the 441 agencies like the IRS, the FBI, the CIA, EPA, or any of those agencies that they just made up and called government, then you would go to court, have to pay a fine, and the judges would defer you back to those governmental agencies and say you have to abide by them because they are federal and allegedly they were the experts. Now, with the Chevron doctrine being overturned or the Chevron deference, it means not only are the courts not out of compliance, and not only are the courts found in error, and the courts, the judges, and any attorneys that went along with this program, they're all out of order. We could do a whole podcast about how President Trump is actually fighting against the bar, the British Accredited Registry. He wants to dismantle it. And the reason he wants to do that is because the British Accredited Registry is actually a part of the deep state, and it is connected to the British Crown. So anybody that has Esquire behind their name, whether you are an attorney or a judge, you are beholden to and working for the British Crown and not we the people. This is why the Constitution for our republic, our lawful government, says that you may not have a title of nobility to create if you create laws. If you want to work for the people, you may not have a title of nobility. Esquire is a title of nobility. It means you had to pass the British Accredited Registry, and you had to recognize, beknownst to you or unbeknownst to you, that you don't work for the people. You work for the British Crown. So all attorneys and judges have to be retrained in constitutional law if they're going to work for our republic. They are going to have to stand down. The bar, the British Accredited Registry, will go away because it's not a part of our lawful government. It's not a part of our republic. So Trump has gone against, and he said he's going to dismantle the British Accredited Registry for that reason, because they're unlawful. So back to the United States Incorporated and all these governmental agencies, of which are 441 that have said they're government. They were found by the Supreme Court of the United States through the overturning of the Chevron doctrine last summer to be treasonous and unconstitutional. Therefore, they all must be dismantled. And that's why President Trump tasked Elon Musk with coming up with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to downsize the government. So eventually the whole government will collapse, and all 441 organizations or agencies tied to this government, they will completely go away. Department of Education, Department of whatever, they're all going to go away. FBI, CIA, all of them. If there's any remnant of those governmental agencies that are somehow benevolent or can serve the people, they will go underneath the republic. This is why under Trump's first administration, he put the duties of the Internal Revenue Services, or the IRS, underneath the United States Treasury Department, because the Treasury Department is the only entity that may deal with money according to our Constitution for the Republic. So the United States Incorporated is being dismantled. The USD, which is the currency of the United States Incorporated, as well as the Federal Reserve central banking system, they're being completely dismantled. And that is why the Supreme Court of the United States last summer, in addition to overturning the Chevron doctrine and considering all those governmental agencies as unconstitutional and treasonous, they also stated that state-sponsored banks can operate outside of the jurisdiction of the United States Federal Reserve central banking system. And state-sponsored banks can not only just operate outside of their jurisdiction, but they can have their own charter and issue out their own gold-backed currency. So that's good news for us, we the people, because our sovereignty is being restored. So along with the United States Incorporated being dismantled, you have the central banking system, the Federal Reserve central banking system being dismantled, and their United States dollar, the USD. They took us off the gold standard and they put us on the standard that really has to do with fiat, where you can print money as much as you can, and you don't have anybody overseeing you, making sure that you only print the amount of money that can be backed by gold. They took us completely off the gold standard. So we're going to print as much money as we can with no oversight from anybody, nobody auditing what they were doing, at least nobody benevolent auditing what they were doing. But when President Trump came in on the scene, he audited all the gold that was in Fort Knox. He audited the gold that was in the Colorado River, running along the Colorado River. He audited the gold that was in Arizona and all over, because he wanted to see how much gold there was here in America so that it could support the real currency that we're going to bring back online. Because we are moving to a gold standard where all of our money, our currency, whatever we agree upon, will be backed by precious metals. So President Trump actually asked for the audit of the gold and other precious metals under his first administration. Now, whether or not he was successful, we're not sure, because the deep state did everything they could to discredit him. Mainstream media, which is a part of the deep state, did everything they could to discredit him and to get the people to not trust what he was doing as being benevolent. But we know that what gave the United States Incorporated their financial and economic hegemony, what made them the powerhouse that they were, was their agreement with Saudi Arabia. And it wasn't just the United States Incorporated, but some of those Zionist entities that had infiltrated and overtook the government, as well as communists, the Chinese Communist Party. They were all in cahoots against we the people in our lawful republic, our lawful government. So they did what they could to make agreements with Saudi Arabia and other nations to get oil exclusively from Saudi Arabia and force all of the exporting nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia and use the USD, their currency, in order to get oil. Well, that has all changed. First of all, it changed when Saudi Arabia joined the BRICS bloc and they became known as Sal BRICS in 2022. That went unnoticed. However, the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, Andy Sheckman, came onto my podcast during 2022 when all that was going on. And I asked him, can you talk about the BRICS bloc, and can you confirm to us that the BRICS coalition is coalescing against the West, but not so much the West, but against the United States Incorporated, because everybody else was saying they might be coalescing against the West. So they're not coalescing against we the people or our American country, our American government or our country or our republic. They are the BRICS bloc was coalescing against the deep state, the United States Incorporated. So in 2022, Andy Sheckman and I made it known to the world that in fact Saudi Arabia had joined BRICS, and not just Saudi Arabia, but 85% of the global population had joined BRICS and decided to stop trading with the dollar and use their own local currencies for trade. They also agreed to not just specifically get oil from Saudi Arabia, because they said we're sovereign. We can, now that we have military backing from Russia and we have Vladimir Putin inspiring us to join the BRICS bloc, then we're going to create our own currency. We're going to get oil from who we want to get oil from. We're going to repatriate our gold back from the Vatican. We're going to work with other countries to return our stolen money. And we're going to work with the central banks of our own nation to revalue our currencies against the United States dollar. So since I did plug Andy Sheckman from Miles Franklin and credit him and I appreciate him for coming on my podcast to confirm what we've been reporting, if you're interested in gold and silver, I will ask you to, why not get it from somebody with whom we're allied? We're allies, and that is Andy Sheckman from Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. You can give them a call at 952-929-7006 or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com and let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you. But what gave the United States Incorporated financial and economic hegemony, which made them the powerhouse that they were, was that they had agreements like the agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect the Saudi kingdom. Now, as an aside, the Saudi princes was owning and buying up land all over the world, just like the Communist Party of China. In fact, the Saudi princes, or some of the Saudi people from the Saudi kingdom, was buying up land in Nevada. They were buying up the casinos. This might be why you see the casinos now being dismantled. Why? Because there was a triangle of power that ruled the world. It was the Soros billionaire, and then you had the Saudi princes here. That's all been dismantled now. And the last remaining leg was the Zionist regime, the Rothschild family and those bloodlines. That's why I did a podcast the other day that says Zionism must fall. It's what they say, Israel last. Watch that podcast. So the whole triangle of power is collapsing. You have the Soros Foundation, you have the Saudi princes, and now all their real estate is going up for sale in Nevada, and all you have right here is Israel. I mentioned that Zionism must fall, and I got a flag through YouTube. Thank you for joining, and thank you so much, Sister Heather, for the cash up. The blessing. You have Zionism, or the is the state of Israel now worried and upset? You have to watch that podcast because I talk about how they feel like they're being left out from those trade agreements that President Trump did in the Middle East. And when I said that, I got flagged from YouTube, but I did appeal, and now I'm okay. However, now I'm having issues with going live. Okay, so there are certain things that they just don't want people to know. So Israel was last. Israel is saying they're worried. They're the last part of the leg of, I'm gonna get your question in a minute, the last leg of the triangle of power. But once Israel is completely dismantled, then you should see global peace. When President Trump went over to the Middle East, he brokered trillions of dollars in world peace. He brokered, trillions of dollars of trade. Trillions of dollars in trade. That's going to make America rich, and it's going to make the entire globe very wealthy, because what he did is put sanctions on some nations that were causing problems and lifted sanctions from other nations, and then brokered trade agreements between us and those nations, and trade agreements between each other. This is unprecedented. Excuse me. But Israel said, oh my God, we're worried. And mainstream media even reported on that. Dr. Kia Pruitt, I reported on that. And they said the reason why they were worried was because Trump didn't include them. And usually when a president visited the Middle East, they would go through Israel, because Israel claimed that they helped set up the Middle East. Maybe they did through deals or threats. But Israel is not a real state. It is a state that was given to them by the British Crown, by the Zionism faction of the British Crown. They gave the Rothschild family an area in the Palestinian region and said, oh, the Jews have a right to have a land or a home to call them for themselves. They need a home for themselves. They should have land that they can go to. And that was in the middle of, or in the area of the Palestinian region. They were not supposed to go and steal land. They weren't supposed to go and steal land from the Palestinians, and neither did they. They didn't confer with them. They didn't include them. They didn't help them. But in fact, they suppressed them. They abused them, mistreated the Palestinian people, even though they stole land from them. Well, that land was given to them through the Balfour Declaration. That first occurred in 1917, and then there was a second part of that in the 1940s during the two world wars. So if you want more information about how Israel was actually a state that is an illegal, unconstitutional, unlawful state that was given to the Rothschilds and these bloodline families by the Rothschild faction and Zionism faction of the British Crown. And they were told they could do whatever they wanted in that region. So what they were doing, where they were, you can imagine, doing all kind of heinous trafficking of drugs, children, what else? Money laundering, all sorts of things, and creating wars and plagues and pandemics and all type of things during their reign in that Palestinian region. But it's coming to an end. And President Trump has now turned his back on Israel. Okay, and people were upset when he stood with Israel under his first administration, and they kept asking me, why is he doing that when we know they're the fake Jews? And I said, be patient. Be patient. This is the art of war. You don't show people your hand. You let them think that you're friends with them, and you find out all their secrets, and then you get rid of them. So why are we supposed to celebrate till next July? Okay, Sister Mariana, you have to look up that is the 250th year anniversary of or commemoration of America's birthday. President Trump's been talking about this for a long time. Started Memorial Day all the way through July the 4th, 2026. And I've talked about it on my podcast. So I don't have much time. Let's get back to the de-dollarization or getting rid of or dropping the United States dollar. There was an agreement called Project Sandman that, when triggered, these nations would simultaneously stop trading with the United States dollar and use their own local currencies. That agreement occurred when Vladimir Putin, he was that trigger, went to Ukraine, went and found out what was going on in those deep underground military bases, all the laundering, sex trafficking, all type of things that was going on there. He exposed that. He was in his rights to do that because the Ukraine, people say don't put the in front of it, that region was once part of Russia when they had a Soviet Union. So he was cleaning out that area and bringing it back under his auspices or under his umbrella. That was the trigger. Remember, Project Sandman is an agreement between 209 nations that when triggered, they will stop trading with the dollar and use their own local currency backed by gold and other precious metals. Well, that happened. He was the trigger. The Ukraine war was in 2022. He stopped trading with the USD. Biden put sanctions on him. And then he said, that's okay because I can use my own currency. And then in 2022, the Russian ruble became the strongest performing currency in the world. I've shown you that article, but you can also look it up. Also in 2022, Saudi Arabia joined BRICS. And that's when Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, and I came on and told you all about that. And we said, and that was the trigger. Once Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, they were known as Sal BRICS, and then nation after nation joined, and it became known as BRICS Plus. In 2022, 85% of the global population had joined BRICS in using their own local currencies for trade and discontinuing the use of the United States dollar. Well, you had BRICS, and then you had the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today. Asian nations that walked away from the dollar. Now you have almost the whole world that has stopped trading with the dollar. You can look up an article by King's World that says the whole world, the world is hurtling back to using gold as money. And that means the world is rushing back to using gold as money. The other part of that is that they're using their own local currencies backed by gold. It's all a part of Project Sandman. So the article that I wanted to show you today, but I'm having issues with my computer, says de-dollarization. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization nations have shifts 92% of trade away from the US dollar. That only leaves 8% of trade that's happening with the US dollar. So these Asian corporations have shifted 92% of trade away from the USD, which means that the United States dollar is being completely demolished. You got BRICS that's not trading with the USD, and now you have the Shanghai Corporation saying we're not trading with the USD. And so what that's going to do is that's going to completely destroy the Federal Reserve central banking system, the USD, and United States Incorporated. Brilliant plan for all of these corporations and organizations and countries to stop trading with the dollar. Let me read this. Hello, Love Being Nubian. Thank you for being here. She said the IRS is unlawful and illegal. Yes, and unconstitutional. De-dollarization is accelerating dramatically right now as Shanghai Cooperation Organization members are reducing their United States dollar dependency in international trade. The SCO, also known as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization nations, have also successfully implemented currency substitution strategies, with Russia reporting that national currencies now account for over 92% of trade settlements with fellow member states, and this marks a historic shift away from dollar dominance or the dollar-dominated global commerce. If you pay attention, you can read between the lines and see that a revaluation of currencies is happening right now. Thank you so much for the blessing, Chief Mac. It's good to see you in the chat. We love you so much. Can you see that? Listen, they're reducing their United States dollar dependency in international trade, thanks to President Trump and the white hats of the military, the Grand Army of the Republic, and the alliances of interdimensional beings that's helping us in the war. They reduced their dependency on the USD in international trade and successfully implemented currency substitution strategies. What's the currency substitution strategies, family? They're using their own local currencies for trade. How can they use their own local currencies if their currencies have been devalued through war? Remember, What happened before, what gave the United States Incorporated, that was controlling our country and usurped authority from our republic, what gave them dominance, financial and economic hegemony, was their agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect the whole Saudi kingdom in exchange for their oil, and force all exporting nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia and use the United States dollar to do it. Well, now countries are not trading with the United States dollar. They decided to trade with their own currency. If you didn't trade with the USD and get oil from Saudi Arabia, like you wanted to use your own local currency, we've seen Middle Eastern nations try to do this, right? Name the nations that tried to do this. Was it Gaddafi? Name them in the chat, please. If you tried to get oil from some other place other than Saudi Arabia, or you tried to use gold or your own local currencies under the old regime, they would cut you off. They would kill your leader. They would send war in your nations, or they would put sanctions on your nations and tell people not to do business with you. Well, if they declare war against your nation for not going along with their program because you didn't want to use the United States dollar, they devalued the country's local currencies through the war, or by putting sanctions on them because nobody else could do business with them, that would devalue their currencies. Under Trump's first administration, he said, regarding the devaluation of currencies, I've been concerned about that for a long time, but I'm going to do something to put all world countries on a level playing field. What did he do? Thank you, Libya. What did he do to put all countries on a level playing field? He did in his second administration through trade deals. So now that we have these trade deals and trade agreements, everybody wants to do business with us. You got to look, if you want to do business with the big boys, you got to have the money. How are you going to have the money to do trade with us and do business with us? The powerhouse, the two largest economies in the world, America and China. We're the first. If you're going to do business with us, and we're getting rid of the Chinese Communist Party. I've shown you the articles that said 400 million people defected from the Chinese Communist Party in 2022 and 2023. And I've shown you articles that said that the largest real estate company owned by the Chinese Communist Party of China, the Evergrande, was forced to liquidate their assets. They went bankrupt in America and were forced to liquidate their assets in 2023. The CCP is done away with, the Chinese Communist Party of China. But if you wanted to play ball with America or the United States Incorporated before, you had to go along with their program. You had to use the USD. Now countries are saying not so. Through Project Sandman, or you can call it Operation Sandman, they decided that when triggered, they would stop trading with the dollar. They're going to use their own local currencies. They repatriated all their gold back from the Vatican. They work with other countries to reclaim their stolen money. They're positioned. So you got BRICS, and now you have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization saying, we're not trading with the dollar, we're using our own currencies. How are they doing that? They're revaluing their currencies with the resources that these countries have, the oil, the gold, the precious metals, the rare earth minerals. Trump brokered many of those deals through trade agreements. He's not finished yet. So he did a lot of trade agreements with some Asian nations. One of the major Asian nations is already done. We talked about that in the Silver Soul Tribe membership group. And that changed the trajectory of the whole landscape as it relates to trade agreements and revaluations of currencies. So under Trump's first administration, he said, regarding devaluation of currencies, I've been concerned about that for a long time. In order to rectify that, I'm going to do something to make sure all countries are on a level playing field. He had problems doing that under his first administration because everybody was attacking him. Under his second administration, he's been widely successful, such that almost all countries, in fact, he said all the countries have called me and said they're ready to do business. He said that before he went to the Middle East. He also said, I'm going to broker deals between 90 countries within 90 days. Mainstream media said, oh, good luck with that. But then we saw articles that came. I said, don't worry about it. He knows what he's doing, and he's being overseen by the Grand Army of the Republic and interdimensional beings that are here to ensure the liberation of American people and the world. He then came back And we showed you articles that said 75% of those 90 nations have reached out to Donald Trump, and 15%, the remaining 15% were in working trade deals. Then he went to the Middle East and brokered deals between all of the Middle Eastern nations, and he was widely successful, and he secured trillions. In exchange, they gave him rare earth minerals, they gave him presents. Y'all know about the jet that Qatar Q gave him. There's a reason why the Q country, Qatar, as in quantum financial system, as in Q, the highest level of a military clearance, and as in they're dropping literal Q's, CUES. Everything is coded. So the dollar is losing its dominance, and now countries are using their own currencies. If I wish I could show you this, I'll put it in the description section for you. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization nations have successfully implemented currency substitution strategies, with Russia reporting that national currencies now account for 92% of trade settlements with fellow member states. So they're doing trade between and amongst each other using their own local currencies. They must have already secretively behind the scenes revalue their currency so they can do business with one another. Because how are you going to do business with currencies that's been tremendously devalued through war and sanctions? It's very difficult. But they're not going to tell you that, not yet, because it's not time. Here's a direct quote from this Guru Watcher article. Our countries are increasing the use of national currencies in mutual settlements. For example, their share in Russia's commercial transactions with members of the organization has already exceeded 92% in the first 4 months of this year, 2025. Then there's an article that talks about how the Shanghai Cooperation Organization nations, BRICS, and currency substitution are driving de-dollarization trends downward. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization's coordinated approach to de-dollarization represents a fundamental shift in global financial architecture right now. This massive economic bloc called Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which comprises China, Russia, India, Pakistan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and also Uzbekistan, controls approximately 42% of the world's population. Shanghai Corporation, 42% of the world's population that stopped using the dollar, and represents significant economic power that's driving currency substitution initiatives across the region. Putin has also noted the broader economic success of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization nations. Vladimir Putin of Russia has stated that the average GDP growth of the member countries of our organization last year amounted to more than 5%. Industrial production to 4.5% with the inflation rate, while the inflation rate is only 2.4%. At the same time, Russia's trade with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization states has increased by a quarter. Then there's an article that talks about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization strategic de-dollarization implementation. I'll read just a little bit about that, and then I have to go to do another podcast with our Silver Soul Tribe. If you want to join a Silver Soul Tribe membership, then beside this video and all of my videos and the main channel, you'll see a small join button. Click on that button and you'll be able to hear more information about the revaluation of currencies, which currencies you should be looking for, how those exchanges should go, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where I give a lot of financial forecasts. But I always give you all a big chunk of that right here for just, for free. We just have a small group of people that speak amongst themselves and give each other trade ideas, tell each other some information that, that we don't want to share publicly, like maybe our numbers, our phone numbers, our private numbers, and how to get in contact with each other, et cetera, et cetera. So the de-dollarization movement within the Shanghai Corporation represents more than just statistical changes, according to this article. Thank you so much, Chief Mac, for another offering of $50. I appreciate you. God bless you. Heaven smile on you. And God bless all of you for being here. This de-dollarization movement also reflects systematic policy coordination among member nations at the timing of this writing. Putin, the president of Russia, emphasized Russia's commitment to expanding non-dollar payment mechanisms, and he's proposing an independent Shanghai Cooperation Organization settlement system that would further reduce United States dollar dependency. They are destroying the USD. As an aside, at the end of every empire, they rack up the debt. They print as much money as they can, these people that are in control of the empires. They buy themselves many assets, and then they destroy the system and go back to the gold standard. This is called the crack up boom. Print up as much money as you can, buy as many assets as you can, rack up the debt, then destroy the system, and we go back to a gold standard. That's what you see happening. We're ending the United States Incorporated. That's the empire, the Roman Empire, the pseudo-Roman Empire. This is why the Pope had to go. King Charles will also go. He'll follow behind him soon, because that whole empire is collapsing, and now our republics all over the world are being restored. The article goes on to say the BRICS nations are working closely with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries. Man, didn't I say that? I said you got the BRICS bloc. I've been saying this for years. And you have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization working together. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, those Asian nations that I named, and then Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and all the nations that have joined them. That's the whole world have coalesced against the United States Incorporated. It's over for the deep state, Illuminati, whoever you want to call them, Chinese Communist Party of China, the fake Jews, the Zionist regime. It's over. The ego empire has collapsed. Be ready, be encouraged, be inspired to be in control of your own life, your own monetary system, your own enterprises. We're moving away from the public into the private. The public represents the government. That's why the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron doctrine and said that the faithful government and all those 441 agencies that I named have to go away. They're unconstitutional. And more so than unconstitutional, they're treasonous. It's going away. So these countries, the BRICS bloc, BRICS nations, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization have worked together closely to implement currency substitution across multiple economic sectors right now. China's yuan has emerged as a primary alternative currency, if people wanted to use it, while bilateral trade agreements are increasingly favoring national currencies, their own currencies, local currencies, over traditional dollar-dominated transactions, and this trend is gaining momentum. Then the next article says BRICS and currency substitution drive global change. The coordination between the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's nations and also the BRICS coalition members amplifies de-dollarization effects globally. The whole world is being now sovereign. They're having their sovereignty returned back to them. Even here in America, you have 45 states, according to the Sound Money Defense League, that have passed legislation to reclaim silver and gold as money by removing the state sales tax from the sales of precious metals. You have to acknowledge gold as money because according to our Constitution for the Republic, that's the only thing that can be used to pay off debts. And the Constitution for our Republic defines the dollar as a fixed weight in silver and as a fixed weight in gold. So 45 nations, or nations, because each state in America is a nation or a country, they have aligned with the Constitution for the United States of America. They have aligned with the Republic and the Constitution for our Republic that says only silver and gold can be used as money and to pay off debts. And how they did that was by repealing or removing state sales taxes from precious metals, because the old regime that was in power, the deep state Illuminati cabal, Zionist regime that controlled the government, and the CCP that controlled the government, said that once they took us off of silver and gold as the standard, that silver and gold is no longer money, but it is a commodity or a collectible. But so you can put taxes on collectibles. That's what they did. But the United States legislatures all over this country are removing or repealing state sales tax from precious metals and saying precious metals is money. You can't tax money. And this is how they are reclaiming silver and gold and now returning us to the gold standard. So we're in alignment with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a whole coalition of nations that joined BRICS to destroy the United States dollar, the Federal Reserve central banking system, and the United States Incorporated. It's over. The revaluation of currencies has happened behind the scenes. They are already revaluing their currencies, and now they're going to reinstate them on a world stage so you can see it back to the pre-war and pre-sanctioned value. Not only will they reinstate them, that's the RI, that's the difference between RI and RV, revaluation. You revalue, assessing a value to the currency, then you're going to reinstate it on the world stage, and it'll be trading on the Forex back to its pre-war, pre-sanctioned value. But you also have to take into account of inflation, and you have to take into account that all these nations are backed by gold, oil, and all of these precious metals and rare earth minerals, whatever they have. All of that is going to revalue their currencies to an exponential number that we can't even fathom. So the article states that these interconnected economic blocks represent countries that are seeking financial sovereignty. That is why the horse named Sovereignty won the Kentucky Derby just last month. They were sending clues to us. Oh, no, I mean, was it last month? Was it in March or was it in May? Not long ago. I think it was in March. They were letting us know that we all have our sovereignty return. They're also reducing exposure to United States dollar volatility and potential sanctions. Putin highlighted the strategic importance of this transition when he says the regular meetings of economy and finance ministers and governors of central banks made a weighty contribution to the development of trade and investments in the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations. And the article goes on to talk more about de-dollarization and how it has accelerated through the BRICS bloc and the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, which aligns with the article that I found in 2023 of February that said the whole world is coalescing against the deep state, or the whole world is rushing or hurtling back to gold as money. And that brings me back to the gold prices. They went down a little bit, but they're going back up. Gold is now $3,305 per ounce. Silver is $32.21. Why it's down by the dip? Call Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company at 952-929-7006 or send them an email at info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt told you about him, and he will make sure you get the best prices in the industry, and he will give you the best treatment. I will also state that it's important for you to make appointments with your local coin dealers. Some of you can buy currencies from those local coin dealers, and you can find silver, gold. You can find constitutional silver, which they erroneously call junk silver. You might even find currencies there. You can find currencies at pawn shops. I had somebody from our Silver Soul Tribe membership said, I found boxes of currencies at pawn shops for just pennies on a dollar. So that's about it, family. I apologize for the short screen. My computer was acting up, but I did the best that I could. Now I'm moving over to the Silver Soul Tribe membership to give a forecast on some other things going on. And I say, pay attention to these two countries and their economies. I'll see you over there shortly in about 5 minutes in the Silver Soul Tribe membership group. Join it. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and send send the video. I apologize. Now I'm having issues with the internet. So I'm just going to go ahead and get off here. We'll come back later on. We are going to run an interview with the princess who will trigger the green light for injecting trillions of dollars into the global economy, Princess Elizabeth Rodriguez Ruiz. tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She will trigger Nasara, the Rodriguez Trust, and other funds. For those of you who haven't met her, you get a chance to meet her. And for those of you who have met her, you get a chance to see her again right here on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So now I'm about to go over to the Silver Soul Tribe to talk about which 2 countries you need to pay attention to. See you soon. Take care. I love you, and I will put these articles in the description section for you. Peace, family. Go out and make this a great day. Bye-bye.